think there's two components to this video that make it interesting. One is a new look at AI of how to explain it using metaphors and motion graphics. The second is actually using AI video creation tools to create most of the visual effects and motion graphics you'll see in these videos. I had a little label on each scene where I used an AI about which one I used if you want to look into it more. I definitely went for variety over quality, as I'm sure you'll see, but it was really cool. And this is kind of what I do for a living. I create videos using 3D and After Effects and film and directing and everything. So learning about these tools has been really cool. I first got into it back in 2016 with Neural Style Transfer, which was one of these first big AI moments where it was creating this amazing artwork. I later learned how to combine it with things like optical flow to make videos and made some stuff I posted on Instagram, which was fun. But now it's just like there's an avalanche of new AI tools coming out and it's really hard to keep up with it. So I wanted to make a video where I just went through all these tools, tried them all out, tried to composite them and put them in an interesting way. And you could look for yourself and see which ones are interesting or which ones are worth looking more into. Also, there's been a lot in the news about AI just in general from the storytelling perspective. So it was cool to talk about that. A lot of people have been asking me about it. So this series will attempt to talk about that, explain AI, and use this AI to help tell that story. Something that can be tricky to pin down is what exactly is AI and what does it mean?
It was coined back in the 1950s, and as you may notice, a lot has changed since then. And also now with it being a hot marketing term and every startup talking about AI, even have a little AI badge dishwasher, the meaning is changing quite a bit. But basically, AI means any process or algorithm inspired by the human mind or inspired by how the human mind works. So basically, a classic computer program follows a list of instructions. Do this, then this, then this. Where in AI, you can give it a lot of data, it will process it, make connections with nodes, and then output something on the other end. You don't need to give it these step-by-step instructions, but you also don't know exactly what it's doing or the patterns it's finding or the connections it's making. Good example is it's kind of like that feeling you get when you know it's going to rain. You probably can't perfectly explain the connections your mind is making between maybe the wind, the temperature, the clouds. Your brain is just sensing some kind of pattern that makes you think, I think it's going to rain. But just like our ability to predict the weather, just because we found a pattern doesn't always mean it's going to lead us to the right answer. And a famous example that encapsulates this so well. There was an example of these researchers that were hoping an AI could be used for early detection of cancerous tumors. Basically, some skin lesions will go away on their own, while others will develop into these cancerous tumors. And for doctors, it's kind of hard to tell in the early stages. So researchers went to hospitals and doctors. They've got thousands of photos of ones that did turn into cancer and ones that didn't. And they gave them all to the AI, hoping that it would find patterns of the cancerous ones. And after it was done, to ensure it found the correct patterns, it showed it new photos it hadn't seen before, and the AI correctly identified the ones that developed into cancer. So, super success. Worked great, but when they brought it into the real world, it failed miserably and it didn't work at all. They went back and they investigated and tried to figure out what was going on, and they discovered that when doctors noticed that a tumor is beginning to grow, when they photograph it, they'll put a ruler next to it to document the size of it. Where a benign tumor gets photographed but never gets measured because it never grows. It just goes away. So this AI was detecting not cancer, but rulers. So basically, just because an AI is inspired by how our human minds work does not mean it's as capable or has our common sense. But of course, that can be kind of easy to forget when you're using an AI like ChatGPT. It's so sophisticated and it's studying the pattern of human words so well that it can actually have a conversation with you on its own. It's amazing how far patterns and little guidance can get you. Since sentences are patterns of words and paragraphs are patterns of sentences and on, through seeing millions or billions of examples, a system, a large language model like ChatGPT is able to learn the connections between words. And through those connections, it can figure out which words are likely to come next in a sentence. Imagine if words were like Lego blocks. The computer has seen millions or billions of different Lego structures, so as soon as it sees the order and configuration of the first few blocks you put out, it can already recognize that you're trying to build a Lego castle, and it will start building that Lego castle with you. It might even add an extra tower for flair, but it never knows or understands the meaning of those words or sentences it's building. It's just trying to build a structure or a Lego castle like all the Lego castles it's seen humans build. So the next level after artificial intelligence is artificial general intelligence. It's a term you'll probably be hearing more of. It's a term for an AI that can do more than one specific task it's trained to do. For example, current AIs, like the one we're talking about earlier that was trained to look for tumors, can then be asked to look for copyright material on YouTube. It can only work on things that it's been trained to do with the data it's been given. So today's AIs take a lot of time and processing power to train on this stuff. They're very narrow, and that's a big bottleneck for the technology. Something general that could focus its attention anywhere it wanted to, something that could kind of learn the pattern of learning so it could learn whenever it wanted to. It could direct its attention towards any issue we want. It could find answers to our toughest questions no matter what domain it was in. It could even find issues and efficiencies with things that we don't even know about or even know to ask about yet. It could focus on big global problems, or it could focus on our small individual problems because it's general. It can be expert in any domain it wants to be. And I've heard people wonder, well, what if you just connect a bunch of different AI models together? Then it's doing more than one task. Is that becoming general or human-like? But I think general also means that you're not just good at a handful of things, you're actually good at being good at things, if that makes sense. If you run into something you've never seen before, a completely novel situation, you can combine bits of things you've learned before, you can take educated guesses, and you can figure out the problem. It's not just for machines, but this is also kind of how we decide how smart humans are. The word intelligence basically means your ability to learn new things or adapt to new situations. This is also essentially what an IQ test is attempting to measure. This is kind of our bar of intelligence, which is interesting to think about.
Also, these AI systems can do all these amazing things, but as long as they can only do one narrow task, they're not technically intelligent like a human, and that's something that can help us sleep at night a little better.
That's the term AGI, because artificial intelligence was already taken. It had to be artificial general intelligence to signify this different thing we're talking about. It's also often used to mean this futuristic, self-aware, human-like computer. This leads to an entire different debate about what makes humans unique or special. Many theorize our general intelligence is what makes us unique because, a beaver can build a dam, a bird can build a nest, but only a human can build anything at once and think abstractly. But I suspect there's probably more to being a human than just our general intelligence. Things that could include our conscious experience, other things like that, which I'll get into in the later videos because I think is a really interesting path to go down. So in the following video, I'll do a deep dive into the impact AI is having and what many predict the future effects will be. I'll break it into two categories: 5 of the biggest concerns, 5 of the biggest benefits. The third video will just be mostly thought experiments. It'll be a bit more abstract. It's going to be questions I've had about AI. There's this future situation where AI takes over the world, or it's this major existential threat. So in that video, I kind of want to dive into that. If not sort of argue the case, at least ask some questions about it. And I'm sure there'll be people out there on YouTube that'll have great answers. So that'll be video 3. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it interesting, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks.